In the heart of the village of Abai, nestled amidst the red earth hills and towering palm groves, lived a boy named Obina. He was the son of Ikenna, a respected palm wine tapper known for his wisdom and strength. From a young age, Obina was admired by the elders for his respectful nature, kindness, and willingness to help both the young and the old. His father, Ikenna, would often speak to him in their quiet evenings, teaching him the wisdom of their ancestors. "Patience, my son, is the greatest strength a man can have," Ikenna would say, his voice rich with the weight of years spent beneath the palm trees. Obina always listened, knowing one day these words would carry him through difficult times. The heart of Abai's life lay in the annual New Yam Festival, the New Yam Festival, where the villagers honored the earth goddess Ola and their ancestors. The festival was a grand affair, celebrated with laughter, music, and rituals. At the heart of the celebrations stood the sacred ivory horn, its smooth surface etched with intricate patterns that told stories of ancestors long past. It had been passed down through generations, carried with honor by elders who understood its deep power and meaning. The horn, kept in the Council of Elders, was a symbol of the connection between the living and the spirits of the ancestors. It was only brought out during the most sacred of rituals. But on the eve of this year's festival, disaster struck. The sacred ivory horn had vanished. The town crier, with his drum in hand, pounded the earth and rang the gong through the village. "People of Abai, the sacred horn has been stolen." The next morning, the entire village gathered in the square. The king, seated under the royal canopy, his red cap gleaming in the sun, spoke with grave authority. "This is not merely theft. It is a desecration of everything we hold dear. We will not rest until the thief is found," the king said. An elder, Okoro the blacksmith, stepped forward with his weathered hands gripping his staff. His voice was low but firm. "I saw Obina near the sacred chambers, just before sunset. Why would a boy be there, if not to steal?" The words hit like thunder. Whispers spread through the crowd, like the dry wind of harmattan. Obina, stunned by the accusation, stood frozen. "I was only returning a bow my father borrowed from the palace. I did nothing wrong," he protested, his voice trembling with confusion. But suspicion had been planted, like cassava in the soil, growing with every passing moment. Obina begged the elders to let him prove his innocence. He made his way to Dibia, the revered spiritualist of the village, seeking guidance from the gods. The air was thick with the scent of herbs and incense as he stepped into the dimly lit shrine. But after casting his cowries, the Dibia sighed, a deep frown crossing his face. "The spirits are silent," he spoke softly. Determined, Obina searched day and night around the palace and its surroundings, retracing his steps in hopes of finding some sign of the missing horn. He even offered to take the sacred test, swearing upon the ancestral staff, a sacred test where liars would be marked by darkened lips and a swollen tongue. His body remained unchanged, his lips as smooth as the palm fronds that swayed in the breeze. But still, the elders were unconvinced. "You have failed to prove yourself, even before the gods," the oldest elder declared. "The silence of the spirit speaks louder than any words." With no proof to defend himself and mounting pressure from the angry villagers, the king pronounced his judgment. "Obina, son of Ikenna, you are hereby banished from Abai. Leave before the cock crows in 2 market days." Tears welled in Obina's eyes, but he did not beg. His heart heavy, he gathered his few belongings, a sling, a gourd of water, and a wrapper tied around his shoulder, and left the village. As he walked past the market, the yam fields, and finally the iroko tree at the village's edge, he turned and whispered to the wind, "The truth is a goat tied to a tree. It cannot run forever." For many weeks, Obina wandered through the dense forest that bordered Abai, his mind a storm of confusion and sorrow. The sun was his only companion during the day, and the cold eerie silence of the forest wrapped itself around him at night. He struggled with hunger, thirst, and the biting loneliness that crept into his heart. One of his greatest pain is that he would never see his father again. Yet, through it all, he remembered his father's words, "Patience, my son. You will find your way." One day, while searching for food in the wilderness, he stumbled upon a neighboring village, the village of Ikiduru. It was here that Obina learned of the sacred masquerade, a powerful group of dancers chosen for their purity of heart and spirit. The masqueraders were seen as sacred figures, bringing blessings and protection to the village. It was said that only those who had never stolen or committed dishonorable acts could be initiated into the order. He also remembered that the masquerade from that village also danced in his village. That way, he could see his father and perhaps one day his innocence would be proven. Obina, desperate to clear his name, decided to join the masquerade. He went through rigorous trials, physically and spiritually testing his endurance and his heart. He meditated for days, fasting and praying to the gods, asking for their guidance. When he passed the test and was finally initiated into the masquerade, a sense of peace settled over him. He had found a new purpose. Every year, when the full moon bathed the earth in its soft silver light, Obina would don the sacred mask of the great masquerade. Cloaked in flowing raffia, adorned with beads and feathers, and with his mask carved from sacred Iroko wood, he would dance. His movements were like the wind, graceful, wild, and free. The villagers of Abai had no idea who he was, but when Obina danced, even the trees seemed to sway in awe. Children cheered, and the elders nodded with reverence. Obina stole the show every time, his performance becoming the heart of the festival. "Surely, he is sent by the spirits," Adana's mother would say, her voice filled with awe. "No, he is one of the gods," one of the elders would add, clutching his staff with a knowing smile. "Or perhaps a spirit child returned to bless us," others whispered among themselves. But no one knew the truth. The years passed, and the villagers of Abai continued their celebrations, each one marked by the arrival of the mysterious masquerades. Their painted masks gleamed under the firelight, their flowing robes swirling like shadows in the night. The masquerades arrived without warning, just as they always had, dancing, weaving through the crowd, their presence a silent promise of mystery and magic. No one knew where they came from or where they went when the celebrations ended. Some believed they were spirits sent to watch over the village, while others thought they were ancestors returning for one night, hidden behind their carved faces. The years passed, and the villagers of Abai continued their celebrations, each one marked by the arrival of the mysterious masquerades. But this year, something felt different. As the day of the festival drew closer, the air was thick with anticipation. The villagers knew the masquerade would come, but they also sensed that something significant was about to happen. The sun shone brightly, and the air was filled with the smell of roasted yams and the sound of drumming as the villagers prepared for the festival. Children wore their finest clothes, and women sang songs of joy. The square was bursting with color as yam heaps towered in the center, ready to be offered to the earth goddess. But despite the festival's outward cheer, there was an undercurrent of tension. This year's performance would be unlike any before. As twilight descended, the crowd began to gather, their whispers growing louder as the drums started to roll like thunder. "Will he come?" they whispered. The anticipation was almost unbearable. Then, from the shadows, the great masquerade leaped into the square. Obina spun, twirled, and soared through the air, his body a blur of movement. His feet barely touched the ground. His hands cut through the air like wings, creating a whirlwind of energy that drew gasps from the crowd. The villagers clapped in rhythm, their hearts beating faster with every movement. But then, as fate would have it, a small child, little Chidibem, chasing a goat that had wandered loose, bumped into the dancer mid-spin. The dancer stumbled, and the crowd held its breath. In that instant, the mask slipped. The villagers gasped, and in the center of the square stood not a god or spirit, but a man. Obinna! They shouted in surprise. The boy they had once exiled. The one they had believed to be guilty of a crime he had not committed. There he stood, tall and strong, his face now older, but unmistakably Obinna. The drums stopped. The air was thick with silence. Lotana's mother stepped forward, her voice trembling. "You," she whispered, her eyes wide with disbelief. "It was you all these years." Obinna nodded solemnly. "I had nothing left," he said quietly. "But the gods gave me rhythm. I danced not for praise, but for peace. For forgiveness." He said, with fear in his heart of what is to become of him. The village stood still. Then, one of the elders, the oldest amongst them, rose from his seat with great effort. His voice was hoarse but steady. "I remember the day you left," he said, his eyes locking with Obinna's. "I watched the dancer every year, the one who lifted our spirits. The one who reminded us of beauty and strength. That was you, Obinna." The silence broke. The villagers began to whisper, their voices a mix of astonishment and wonder. But then, a question rang out from the crowd. An elder stepped forward, his eyes sharp. "Only those pure of heart are allowed into the masquerade. How could you, Obinna, have joined?" Obinna's voice was steady as he replied, "I never stole. I was wrongfully accused, but the gods know my heart." At that moment, the new priest of the village was called forth. The old priest had passed away, but the new priest consulted the gods. After a long silence, he nodded and turned to the villagers. "The gods have spoken," he said. "Obinna is innocent." With that, the elders rose, their faces filled with respect. "You are no longer an outcast," they said. "We are sorry for what we did to you." Obinna's heart swelled with emotion. For the first time in years, he smiled. That night, he danced again. Not hidden behind a mask, but as himself. The fire blazed brighter, the drums beat louder, and the villagers of Abai celebrated not just the New Yam festival, but the return of a son they had wronged. From that day on, the festival of the New Yam was never the same. Now, the final dance is called Obinna's dance, a reminder that forgiveness, like rhythm, lives in the heart. And in the village of Abai, the spirit of truth and redemption dance forever. Children, always remember that the truth will always prevail, though it may linger, but it always prevail. If you love enchanting African tales and soothing bedtime stories, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Every story carries the wisdom of elders, the magic of tradition, and the spirit of adventure. By supporting us, you help keep these beautiful stories alive, spreading their lessons of courage, kindness, and truth to listeners everywhere. So join the journey, share the magic, and stay tuned for more unforgettable tales.